What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here once again. Spurs not playing this weekend. Got to wait all the way till Monday night till it's all said and done with every other Premier League side. So we'll know what we have to do going into that game against Leeds on Monday, albeit we know what we have to do already. We just need to win.
We know.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise today. Zerbi has already taken his press conference duties and said a lot of interesting stuff already today. So we're going to get into all of that. Team news, see what was said. He gave us a bit of transfer snippets as well in this press conference. But we're going to start off talking on the team news. And first up, we're going to speak on Guillermo Vicario. Vicario, if you remember, was expected back. Was it for that Sunderland game? He was
pretty
back,
much, yeah.
Which was De Zerbi's first game in charge.
Well, maybe the Sunderland missing, but the one after that, Brighton.
Yeah. But he says, no, Vicario is not ready yet. I don't know what will be the plan. He's suffering because he would like to help the team and his teammates, but he's not available yet. I mean, I thought he would be ready by now. I thought it would be available by now. Do you think there's anything in it about this Inter Milan transfer? I'm starting to think that there is.
I was just about to ask that. Like, we saw when Hugo Lloris, when he was obviously in his last few weeks at Tottenham, he went off at half-time when we were losing 5-0 at Newcastle with an injury, and we never saw him again, did we? And a lot of people have said, oh, it was just because he was on his way out and he wasn't actually injured. I'm not sure if it was true, but yeah, I mean, with Vicario, if there is an agreement with Inter Milan already, maybe his head's not in it, and maybe it's a best case of look to the future rather than keep playing him if he's, mind is elsewhere. I think that's probably the right decision if there is a pre-agreement to probably kind of leave him outside of the maybe make it as if it's an injury to kind of quieten down any noise. But but we did know he did have surgery on a hernia, and these can be awkward surgeries. I know before I've had a hernia surgery, it can be awkward. So maybe it is taking longer than expected. They said he was going to be out for about a month. Or 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and now it's getting closer to 2 months. So he every week keeps saying, yeah, Monday he'll be back, Monday back training, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But to be fair, obviously we're happy with Kinski at the moment. He's playing well, so it's not like we're desperate for Vicario to come back. And even if he is fit, there's a big question whether he should play anyway. So it's not a massive deal. But yeah, I wonder if there is something to do with this Inter Milan deal.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a bit peculiar, doesn't it? Because they did say he was supposed to be back like 3 weeks ago. So, and even then, after the Sunderland game, he said he'd be back in training on Monday. Literally said that after the Sunderland game. And that was De Zerbi's first game in charge. So, yeah, I think this is a bit suspicious, to be honest. And in your opinion, do you think he's played his last game for Tottenham then?
Yeah.
You think he has? So you think it's to do with the
yes.
Inter Milan thing as well?
Not necessarily, but I think even if he comes back, I think Kinski's keeping his place, unless Kinski has a bad game or really bad game and Vicario is called upon again. I think Kinski's going to keep his place, so I think it's a good chance he's played his last game. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think this has got to? Do you think he's actually still injured, or is this to do with his impending move to Inter Milan? Let's talk on James Maddison now, because James Maddison, obviously, we've seen him in training. We've seen he's looking raring to go on the sidelines and everything like that. So he made a few comments on him, and he says, I'm thinking about James Maddison because I'm watching a top player, and he's not ready to play yet, as not in the physical condition, but for the rhythm or the intensity of the game. You are playing in the Premier League, the most difficult league in the world for rhythm and intensity. And yeah, I mean, that makes me think we might start seeing him maybe for 5-10 minutes at the end of games just to get that rhythm and intensity back.
Yeah, and it's hard to get that back unless you're playing, I'm assuming, because that comes with being back on the pitch and being finding that rhythm again. So if you say it's not a physical problem anymore, then surely we'll start to see him like very soon, because how else are you going to get your rhythm and intensity back? Obviously, there's a difference between fit and being match fit. We've seen that down the years. So obviously that's where Maddison probably sits right now. He's physically ready, but he's not match fit. And obviously he's come back over a very serious injury, so you don't want to take any unnecessary risks on him. But from what he's saying, he's thinking about it, isn't he? And I think we're just all desperate to see him back on the pitch, and hopefully Monday can be the day.
Yeah, I think I got a feeling it will be. Definitely. Like in the last, give him like 5 minutes towards the end. You know, bring him on 85, 80, and see how he goes. But yeah, if it's not a physical issue anymore and he's back from his injury and just needs to get that match practice, get that intensity back into his game, back into his legs. I think Monday is going to be the day, man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, kind of given the game state, how that affects it. If we're trailing, if we're drawing, does he bring him on? If we're winning by 2 or 3, is that a better kind of scenario to bring him on? But obviously we have to be in that position. So is there like an ultimate, a peak scenario to bring him on? Maybe we're winning comfortably and the game's pretty dead.
I think that is obviously the best scenario, because then if he's completely not ready and he's not up to the speed of the game, then it's not going to hurt us too much, and the games should be already won by that stage. However, if we're going into it 1-1 or losing 1-0, going to last 5 minutes and we get a free kick on the edge of the box, you know what I mean? It's like, who do you want better than James Maddison to take it?
He's in the top 10 for free kicks scored in the Premier League. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to be at great intensity to take a free kick. It's just a set piece at the end of the day. So he can impact games in more than one way. That's the quality of the player he is.
So what do you reckon the likelihood is we see him on Monday?
I think it's a high chance we see him on Monday. What about you?
Yeah, I reckon there's a good chance. Yeah. I reckon I'll give it 65% likelihood.
I'd even go higher than that. I'm sure he's going to play after those comments. I think he's going to come on towards the end of the game, and he's going to get that big ovation. You know, he's been out for too long, man. His last game was Sonny's last game for Spurs in that friendly. It's mad to think about. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about, who are we talking about next? Dominic Solanke. Positive update on him, because the initial rumours were that he was going to be out for the rest of the season, or maybe come back for the last game of the season. He says that Solanke, he's improving very quickly. I don't know for this game, maybe for the game at Stamford Bridge. So that'll be a major boost going into that game at Stamford Bridge.
Definitely. I don't think he starts anyway, because Richarlison is scoring at the moment and running his arse off and doing a good job for the team. So right now, you can't take Richarlison out of the team. But we'll have to see how he does on Monday. And I think if he has a bad game, then I think that obviously Solanke could come back in. And I think Solanke might give him a few other things which he might like, which Richarlison doesn't. So it's great, because, as you say, there was rumours that his season was going to be over. It's been such a horrible season for Solanke with injury. It's been really, really bad, and we haven't seen anywhere near the best of him, and we haven't seen anywhere near enough of him. And it's kind of been the story of him ever since he's come here, which is very frustrating, because I do think there's a good striker in there, and I think he gets a bad rap because of the circumstances. So let's hope he has a couple of games and plays well. But I feel sorry for him, because in the last England squad he was in it. And he was obviously, I think it was just off the back of scoring a brace against City, and it looked like maybe he was going to make it. But since then, he's been injured. So Watkins has turned his form around, and he's probably going to lose his place.
Yeah, look, it's been an absolute horror season for Dominic Solanke. It's been a horror season for everyone, but particularly him. For someone that doesn't have too much of an injury record, these last 2 years since joining Tottenham have just been so stop-start. And we've seen the values of Dominic Solanke, for sure, particularly last season at times. But this season, we've barely seen him. Like that injury that he had the first half of the season, it was only supposed to keep him out for a few weeks, and he was out for like 6 months. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
I think he's injured himself twice kicking the floor when he was supposed to be kicking the ball in training. I think that happened last season. I think it happened this season as well. It's like, just learn how to kick the ball, Dom, and you'll be all right.
Oh, God. So, transfer news. Joao Palhinha. Roberto De Zerbi confirmed in his press conference, he was asked, would you like to sign Joao Palhinha in the summer? And he says, 100%. We have to start with these type of people, more than players. We need reliable people and players, and Palhinha is one of the best. As a player for sure, but as a guy, I want to see players have the same personality, attitude and spirit, and we're lucky to have him. I think this is great news, to be honest. I mean, we spoke about it a few days ago about would we want to see Joao Palhinha sign, and I said for sure. He's been so important for Spurs since Roberto De Zerbi has come in, particularly in the last couple of games. And he just adds something that we just don't have in this squad apart from him, an elite tackler. I think even whether he starts or not, I'm not too bothered. But to have a profile like his in the squad, I do think is really important. And, even if he doesn't start, coming off the bench the last 20 minutes to help us see out games, I think is so important in the big games. You play him in midfield to have that bite. I think it's great. And you're looking at the way Zerbi used him in the last game, using Porro more in that position to use him in build-up and then dropping Palhinha a bit further back so he wasn't actually involved too much in the build-up and he had so much more time and space on the ball. And obviously that was to our benefit as well. So Zerbi clearly knows how to use him. So I think this is a great move if we can get it over the line.
Well, he's a smart guy, Zerbi. Very, very smart tactically. And I think we all been saying, Palhinha, when he's taking the ball and he's being pressed and he's got little time, he does struggle. And I think that's been evident throughout the season. I think even in his career, that's been fairly evident. So I think Zerbi did something very clever, which is, by the way, when we've seen him this season play at centre-back, we've always noted how much better on the ball he looks. It's because he's got time, he's facing the play, he's got time and space to pick out passes. And against Aston Villa, it's exactly what he did. He dropped him back into like the right centre-back role, kind of in build-up, and meant when he received the ball, he had time and space to face up, and he was actually playing some really beautiful switches of play, really few, really nice balls over the top, nearly finding Tel Doggy, and that was a really smart piece of play from Zerbi. And then as well, you didn't lose anything he gives you off the ball because he was an absolute general on the ball. Off the ball when Villa were coming at us. In terms of him staying, he's had a weird season in that respect because the club have clearly been toing and froing about whether they want to keep him or not. When in the first couple of months it was like, oh my God, like sign him up now. Like, why were we waiting? Then we went for a lull period. He was out the team. Obviously, we were suffering for form. And the rumours were that Tottenham weren't really sure, and in fact they were leaning towards not signing him in the summer. Frank wasn't really picking him that much. Even Tudor, I think, came in and wasn't picking him. So at that point you're thinking maybe it's best we part ways. But it was very interesting, wasn't it, when Zerbi got appointed? I think a week after his appointment, we heard that report from Plettenberg saying Tottenham actually are looking to activate it, and I think he didn't even start the first game. So he must have made a real impression on Zerbi in that first week, and he's obviously earned himself in the team. It was only his first start against Villa, but he took over from Basuma in the team, and now Zerbi has been talking him up in the press conference after the Villa game, and has clearly fallen in love with him. And I definitely think their mentalities match for sure. I think he's going to love his passion, love his mentality, love what he gives to the team from experience and leadership point of view. I think it's an important thing to have in a squad. In terms of signing him permanently for 25 million, obviously 25 million is a pretty good price. I wonder if Tottenham will renegotiate that anyway, because we know Bayern are pretty happy to sell.
We've already heard that Spurs will renegotiate it.
Yeah, so that'll probably be, I don't know how much it'll end up being, but it's going to be a fairly good deal for Tottenham, wherever it turns out to be. I don't mind it. I think he definitely has a use in the squad. I just wonder where it leaves our other midfield positions, because we were talking about what midfielders we need, how many we're going to let go. If Palhinha is actually staying now, obviously we think Basuma's probably going to leave anyway, but we've still got Bentancur, Sarr, Bergvall, Gray and Gallagher. So that's probably too many, especially with that we're not going to be in Europe. So where does that leave all of them if Palhinha is staying? And who do we sign? What kind of profile are we signing? Because we still need a controller as well, a kind of deep lying midfielder who can spray passes and stuff like that. I just wonder what it means for our squad planning if Palhinha is staying, where that leaves our midfield.
That's the only question. Goes. I think Basuma's going to go at the end of the season. Yeah. So that means you probably want to lose one more so you can bring in one more this summer. And I think that one's probably going to be Pape Matar Sarr. I can't see Bergvall or Gray. I can't see us sanctioning a move away. This is all dependent on staying in the Premier League, by the way. I can't see us sanctioning a move away for Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall. So I think Sarr's the odd one out here. I think Bentancur, since he's come back, he's proved how important he is to the team. You need to keep him. So, yeah, I think it's got to be Sarr.
But when you think about it for next season, obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Decky in terms of his injury. Javi's going to be out till at least February. And then you've got Maddison obviously coming back. So he's going to be part of the first team next season. If we might look to sign another attacking midfielder. So if we're going to play with an attacking midfielder next season, that leaves Gallagher, Bentancur, Palhinha, Gray and Bergvall all fighting for 2 spots. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a lot, is it? Especially, and we have obviously given Sarr, Basuma a leave.
Yeah, it is. But, That's a good problem to have when you've got, you know, a lot of good players that you want to keep at the club for next season. So I think it's a good headache for De Zerbi, and De Zerbi's got the summer until the end of the season to decide who he wants, who he doesn't want, and I'm sure he'll make the right decisions.
Yeah, but that's even without signing anyone, is my point.
Yeah, I know.
You've got 5, so if we sign someone, then
But
what?
as well, I think like you got to remember that De Zerbi is so much of a different manager to the previous ones that we had. You know, some of these players can come into their own under De Zerbi and look like completely different players. And you're talking about players that can control from deep, and yeah, fine, we want a better one, a high volume passer. But I think Rodrigo Bentancur has already showed, like, in that role, since De Zerbi has come in, I think he's been phenomenal at it.
No, he's been good. I still think we need better, but he's been good. Like, of course, De Zerbi's going to probably improve a lot of these players on the ball, like we saw when we had Ange. We had all the players were better on the ball. You know, all looked a lot more comfortable on the ball, and I'm sure De Zerbi will implement his way, and they're all going to improve. But still, we even saw when we had Ange that they just weren't quite at the level. That
It's true, but tactically, De Zerbi is a different beast to Ange.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the players could get even better under De Zerbi than they were under Ange. You know, we went through a large period under Ange where we didn't look that good, but I think, you know, we'll get better and better. Look, to be honest, I agree with you. We do need that one midfielder to come in.
But the problem is then if you bring another one, that's 6 players, unless another player leaves. And are we really going to have 6 centre mids for 2 spots? I don't see it. I don't see that. Unless maybe one of Bergvall, Gray go on loan somewhere.
I don't think so. I think he keeps both of them. Unless Gray could be, I don't know. It's a hard one to answer. We have to wait and see.
Just causes. I mean, look, it's not a bad problem per se, but it is a problem you have to sort out. You can't just. I don't think you just ignore it and just keep signing players and have unlimited centre mids. You've got to trim it down at some point.
Yeah.
So I think for a while everyone was assuming Palhinha might be one of the ones to leave, but now we're thinking he looks like he's staying. That causes obviously a different issue somewhere else. Not to say that doesn't mean it's not worth signing Palhinha just because we have that issue. I'm just saying it does cause that issue.
Like I said, there's 2 to be going in Basuma and potentially Sarr. I think it will be Sarr. I think he's the next one to go if we are going to sign Joao Palhinha. And he hasn't. I mean, I know he's coming back from injury. So you never know, you know. Maybe when he gets fully fit, De Zerbi will really like him. We don't even know that. So,
who, sorry?
Sarr.
Yeah.
Because he's only just coming back from injury. So, yeah, it's a big question. It's a big question about what De Zerbi does with this midfield. But what we can say is that the midfield, with the players that we've got right now, has actually never looked better since for years. Like, I think this midfield in the last game performed so well, didn't it? And that's all down to credit to De Zerbi. So maybe he can get the players the current crop of players to perform better than we've ever seen them before. Look,
I think regardless of whether we need a sitting control or whatever, like even if we don't get one, I'd like to think we can still be better than we are this season and one previous season. And look, we did finish 5th, you know, without a controller per se. So
and that was 1 game a week. Yeah,
that was 1 game a week. So we can't. This squad is good enough to like be back challenging. This set of midfielders, I should say, are good enough to probably be challenging for where we where we want to be back in Europe or Champions League spots. Just in itself, I'm just saying we've always wanted that kind of midfielder. If that is something that, you know, there's links from De Zerbi talking about Locatelli or Alex Scott or these kind of players. If we want to bring one of those in, then there has to be another difficult decision to make, I think. I don't think you can go in the season with 6 centre mids for 2 spots. I think.
Well, with the ones that we got now, let's just say, for example, for argument's sake, we might go and look to sell Sarr and Basuma won't be here next season. You would say for one of the positions, Palhinha and Bentancur might fight for it, depending who we're playing that day. They might even play alongside each other, but you know, they would be the deepest lying players that we've got is Bentancur and Palhinha. In the 8, you would look to have Gray, Bergvall, and Gallagher. So that's 3 players. And in the 10, you've got James Maddison. So maybe while Jabby's out, Bergvall plays with James Maddison in the 10.
Or Gallagher even, actually.
Or Gallagher, yeah. So
I guess that makes sense. But then you have to sign another one on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Squad planning's a bit of a headache, isn't it? But I guess it's not like terrible.
I guess in a strange way, even though we've got less games, it's less of a need because we don't have those UEFA rules that we have to be able to abide by next season.
Also
and that was like a big thing going into this season, how to fit all the players in. We don't have that problem next season.
It's also true. So anyway, in terms of Joao, I am happy to keep him. Obviously, he's actually in all competitions had 10 goal contributions, 6 goals, 4 assists, which is not what we expected when we signed him. I think he's pretty much been what we've expected, to be honest. Like, unbelievable off the ball, not so good on the ball, but can be decisive in the box. I think he's clearly shown that. And maybe he can show something new under Zerbi that we don't expect. And clearly in the last game, he was much better on the ball than he's probably been all season.
Yeah.
Probably due to tactics rather than him changing too much about him. So if he keeps playing him that way, maybe he could be our number one.
Yeah. Which it just proves that about De Zerbi's mind, about he knows the player's strength, he knows the player's weaknesses, and he's going to play to that. Whereas Thomas Frank, he kind of just like, well, Palhinha's a midfielder. We'll play him in midfield, but he can also play at centre back as well. So if we're in a game against Doncaster, we'll put him at centre back. Like, he didn't really have the kind of know-how to say, well, if he's in midfield, he's going to drop back into the defensive positions and we'll bring Porro in. Like, he just didn't have the tactical mind like that.
I think Palhinha would probably play how basically like Højbjerg played under Ange, kind of that kind of role. Like, came in quite a few games, but mostly was like a guy when we're in the lead for the last 20 minutes would come on and just see the game off. And he actually did quite a good role, underrated role, I would say, in that season before we sold him. And I think we suffered for selling him, actually.
Yeah, we did.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, we did. All right, so let us know your thoughts on Joao Palhinha. Would you like to see him join permanently at the end of the season? And let's talk about who's next. Archie Gray, because there were some really interesting comments from De Zerbi on Archie Gray in the press conference, and he says he's very young, big potential as a player. I think he can become the future. I'm sure he can become the future of this club, the captain of this club. He has to understand better what he will be in his position on the pitch, because he can play in a lot of positions, but I would like him more specific in his position. We are working with him and that individual individual meetings. So really interesting on Archie Gray. Obviously, he sees a big future for him, as did Ange. Obviously, when he signed him, he said this guy is the future of the football club. I think he has come on a lot from last season. I think his development has been really good so far, even under Thomas Frank and whatever. Wherever you ask him to fill in, he actually does a decent job. But, he's had really standout performances in certain times of the season. That performance against Atletico Madrid this season, it's just like, it shows like what a good player this guy is and what talent he is, because, you don't have a performance like that against Atletico Madrid. They've just been knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions League if you're not a good player. And this guy is 20 years of age, not that much experience behind him in terms of top-level football. And he's shown already in a short space of time how good he can be. And, yeah, he just needs a bit of nurturing, a bit more development. And I think he can come into a top player.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw it in the last stages of Frank and in Tudor's reign. He was the only one, wasn't he, stepping up and actually being good, like actually having good performances. Everyone else seemed just devoid of confidence, devoid of direction, and Archie Gray was the only one actually still stepping up for the team, whether he played a right back, whether he played in midfield or centre back even on an occasion. He was the only one stepping up. So I do think definitely development. The development for him this season is, I think last season when he played in midfield, he really struggled. Whereas this season, I think he's been much better, much more competitive. I still think there's obviously a lot of work to do in terms of he still gets bullied a bit in the middle. But I think he's a lot more competitive than he was last season. Last season, he was just being completely overrun, and it was difficult for him to really compete in the midfield. He was getting eaten up alive, I think, a bit last season, put it that way. But this season has been a lot better and a lot more competitive. But I do think there's still been a massive difference, when Bentacle's come in, compared to him. So he's still kind of lagging behind. He's not quite there yet.
Which is expected at his age as well. There's only his second season in the Premier League in his position. And by the way, what you're talking about last season, I do agree with you, but that would have done him the world of good, in terms of trying to compete physically in this league and getting to the pace of the game as well.
No, for sure. So my only point bringing up the whole Bentacle thing is, as much as he was playing well, you really see what a good performance looks like compared to a team of a winning performance. It's just two different things. And Gray played well, but we weren't winning. not totally his fault. I'm just saying we weren't. He wasn't good enough to get us those kind of results. Whereas Bentancur, that's the kind of level that he needs to reach if he's going to be starting games regularly.
But it's interesting though, because Gray in that period, it was a really terrible period for Spurs, and it's not because of Gray, because Gray was actually the best player in the team at that time. It would be interesting to see what I know he played Sunderland, but that was also kind of like the first game of De Zerbi, so it's hard to really judge it. But what would he have been like in that Aston Villa game, for example? I still think he would have, added to a winning performance.
Well, it's interesting. How much has he actually played since that Sunderland game?
Not much. Not much.
Has he played at all?
I think he's come on in a few games.
Brighton, he came on. I don't know about Wolves and Villa. Well, Villa he didn't.
Not.
Villa he didn't.
No, Villa he didn't come on.
I don't know about Wolves. Did he come on at Wolves? Maybe for the last few minutes. Anyway, I think the point for De Zerbi at the moment is what he's saying. What is his best position? I think his
last minutes were Brighton.
He's still figuring that out himself. Obviously, it's helped maybe his development in terms of getting new skill sets within him to play right back, centre mid, whatever. Even number 10 he's played.
But physicality as well.
Physicality, but in terms of really learning a position and learning the specifics of how to play, how to be good in certain positions, I think unless you're getting a run of games or unless you're very suited to that position, it's hard to become a specialist. Does he want to? It's hard to when you're the Swiss Army knife that Gray is. He can play in all these different positions and so willing to play in all these different positions. Sometimes that can go against you because everyone is so specific in certain positions that when they're fit or when they're available, they're seen as more of a specialist in that position. And when you're not seen as a specialist in any position, you're always kind of left out in the cold sometimes because you're kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. Whereas Bentancur is a specialist centre mid, or Porro is a specialist right back, or Van de Ven and Romero are specialist centre back. Obviously, they're well ahead in their career, but the point is, that's kind of what he's saying. He's he has to really understand what his best position is and maybe stick to it a bit and be a bit specific. And I don't know if he knows, is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a fullback?
He's not a fullback.
But he has to, well, we don't know.
I don't think he's a fullback. I do think he's going to operate in the central areas of the pitch. I think that's where we've seen him at his best, in my opinion. His top performances have all come there. So whether it be a 6 or an 8.
There are some players who, let's say Zinchenko, he was a midfield up until, but he just didn't quite have the physicality or quite to be a top level. So he was not a bad centre mid, but he wasn't a top level one. But he could have been a top level fullback. Same with Ben White, he was a centre back, wasn't he? And he was a centre mid at Brighton. He was playing centre mid and centre back, and he was decent. And he actually, got a move to Arsenal off the back of it, but he just wasn't quite good enough for Arsenal to be there, but he was good enough at right back. I'm not saying Gray is like that. I'm just saying we don't know yet. He's so young. I think he wants to be a centre mid, but whether he's quite good enough to be a starting centre mid for Tottenham or whether he has to be a fullback, I kind of wait to be seen. I believe he will be a centre midfielder. That's where I think his best work has been. I agree with you, but I think we're still kind of working it out at the moment.
We are, but you've got to remember, the only reason he's played at centre-back and right back is because of the injuries that we've had. I think if we didn't have injuries and Porro wasn't playing at every game and we didn't run him into the ground, I don't think we would have seen him in those positions. I think we only would have seen him in midfield. So I think the reason why he's been this Swiss Army knife, a lot of it has been down to injuries, in my opinion.
Of course, yeah.
So that's obviously been to his detriment, but also it's also been the reason why he's seen so many minutes in the Premier League so far. So you can look at it both ways. You look at Bergvall as well. He's been filling in here, there and everywhere. And he hasn't been at centre-back because he's not that kind of player. He doesn't have that defensive side to his game. But he's been on the right wing. He's been in the 10. He's been in the 8. He's been in the 6 even a couple of games. So these kind of players, Bergvall and Archie Gray, they're such top talents. But because of the injuries that Spurs have had, we haven't been able to nurture them in their real positions just yet.
Yeah.
So, look, that is your Tottenham update, your first Tottenham update anyway, and we're going to get into some more stuff very, very soon, but very interesting stuff said from Roberto De Zerbi on many of the players so far. I saw Brian Daigle in the comments before. Is he still here? Because he is going to want to see this update that we're about to get into.
Where are you, Brian?
We have got a super chat here from Renegan Kumar saying, Ange is a better manager than Roberto De Zerbi. I think it's hard. Look, obviously Ange has achieved more than Roberto De Zerbi in his career. That's there for everyone to see. But I think as a tactician, I think Roberto De Zerbi is a better tactician.
I think they both have similar philosophies, but I think De Zerbi is just a bit more in the details with it. He's a bit smarter with it. Whereas Ange is like, this is, we press we want to press 100%, invert the fullbacks, all this kind of stuff. He'll tweak some things in game, like, okay, maybe we're going to go to a back three now, or maybe we're going to sit off a bit at this point. Whereas Zerbi will literally in game change little details. Okay, no, you're going to stand here instead of here. Little minutiae. Palhinha, you're going to drop back out of the block and be spraying passes like that. Zerbi is much more detail oriented, whereas I feel like Ange wasn't detail oriented. Well, that was one of his biggest downfalls, is he wasn't really in the details, which is where you should, other coaching staff should probably come into play. But Ange, I think that was his biggest flaw, is he's much more about the philosophy and the macro and building a way of playing rather than focusing on little details. And De Zerbi, obviously wants that as well. He wants a team front-footed, and he's very on about those things. But there's little details which makes a difference.
And also, you look at all the top managers now in the game. Where you look at Pep Guardiola, you look at Luis Enrique, dare I say it, Mikel Arteta, they're all so focused on those little details, aren't they? Every single one.
But it's true. But Frank was also focused on those details, but I think in a different way.
The wrong details.
Yeah, probably. In a different way. He's kind of maybe too focused on the details and not focusing on what kind of team we want to be. Whereas De Zerbi, has a bit of both.
All right, look, we've got 1,300 people in the live chat. Come on. Big up to all of you. And let's get into the second segment of the show. And we're going to start off talking about Luka Vuskovic, the amazing Luka Vuskovic that just keeps surprising every single person every step of the way. More awards coming for Luka Vuskovic. Not only was he named in Team of the Year, so let's actually go and look at Team of the Year in the Bundesliga. This is the kind of caliber that he's being put up with. This is Player of the Season. Let's go look at Team of the Year quickly. So they got Gregor Kobel in goal, a back three of back four of Schlotterbeck, Jonathan Tah, Upamecano, and Luka Vuskovic.
They put him in.
Yeah, they just had to shoehorn him in there because he's been so good.
Fullback.
Got Kimmich, Pavlovic, and Angelo Stiller in midfield. Then Luis Diaz, Harry Kane, and Michael Elise up front. So, I mean, all of them are like seasoned veteran pros, and you've got Luka Vuskovic in there. It's just quite incredible, isn't it?
I mean, all of them are, you would say, top class. Some even most even world class players, and then for Vuskovic to put him into that category is phenomenal. It just goes to show how amazing he's been. He's up for Player of the Season, as we just showed before. He's in Team of the Season. His quality knows no bounds. It's just incredible how good he has been and how he just keeps going from strength to strength. I mean, I would have, if he would have gone to the Bundesliga and just played a bunch of games and done all right, people would have said it would have been a good season for him just to be at home in the Bundesliga. Yeah. But to not just be at home, to not just actually excel, but to actually be one of the best players, not even defenders, is astonishing. That is astonishing.
It really is. So I mentioned Player of the Season. He's up for them. He's one of the 10 or 11 contenders up for Player of the Season.
Is that not just the team? Is that not the same thing?
That's for Player of the Season.
But I'm saying, is it not the same as team? Is that everyone who's in the team is up for player or not?
I guess so. Yeah, that's 11 players, isn't it? That's the Team of the Season. Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, every single one of them is up for Player of the Season. But it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Like, there's only 3 attacking players there up for Player of the Season, which is quite crazy. But I don't think this is the one he's going to win. But he might win Young Player of the Season because he's up for Young Player of the Season as well. And that's just between 3 players, and that is Yan Diomande, Ibrahim Maza, and Luka Vuskovic for Rookie of the Season in the Bundesliga. So he's really coming in for recognition, isn't he?
Yeah, the only thing with Diomande, he's had such a great season, hasn't he? So
is Luka.
No, he has. I'm just saying he's also had a fantastic season. What was it? 12 goals, 7 assists. It's going to be hard to beat, but Vuskovic got half Player of the Season, didn't he? So I think already he's been on everyone's lips throughout the whole year. He's not left anyone's attention. So I think he's got a great shout. Is anyone who's favourite? Or I don't know if you can look at it.
I don't know. I haven't seen who's favourite, but he won half player of the season for the player, like not even young player, like player of the season over Harry Kane. It's just like mad. Let's talk about Will Lancashire now, because he has had a stellar season for Oxford. George Sessions did an article on him for the PA today, saying that Premier League clubs are ready to pounce if Tottenham decide to let go of forward Will Lancashire. Any decision on Lancashire's long-term future at Tottenham will not take place until there's clarity over which division the club will be in next season. But there is optimism about his prospects under Roberto De Zerbi. Lancashire, who's developed physically in the Championship and has broken his top speed on a multiple occasion this season, won Oxford's Golden Boot this season, scoring 12 goals in all competitions, and also won their Young Player of the Year this year as well. So Will Lancashire. So it's very interesting, Will. There's a bit of comparison drawn with him and Evan Ferguson, who obviously Evan Ferguson, I know he hasn't gone on to be the player we all expected him to be, but Roberto De Zerbi brought him through and scored 11 Premier League goals in his first season.
Yeah, I wonder what we do with Will Lancashire. Obviously, he's had a fantastic season for a struggling Oxford team who ended up going down. So to be able to get that amount of goals for a relegated championship team at 21, you know, in his not his first loan spell, but was it his second loan spell? Because he had West Brom last year.
I think this is his second.
Yeah, second. West Brom last year, now Oxford. So it's impressive. And I'm surprised Premier League. I thought he'd be going, if he was be sold, maybe down to the Championship. But
apparently there's interested in him around Europe as well.
Look, he is a 21-year-old striker scoring lots of goals, and he obviously did unbelievable in the PL under 21. He was banging the goals left, right, and centre. Whenever he has played for Tottenham, I think he's looked quite good. I remember that first pre-season, his first pre-season, I remember he scored quite a few goals. I remember him scoring at Hearts, and I think he scored a few. And then when he
scored against Galatasaray,
Europa League, he scored. So I think there's going to be a Premier League striker there. That's my feeling when I see him. When I look at him, he's a strong boy, you know, good physically, and he's got a good finish. He's got an eye for goal. We saw that goal in his last goal of the season, was it? Bend it in from 25 yards. And I think the main thing is what they're saying. He's breaking his top speed, so he's working on getting those physical edges, improving. That's where you really saw Kane when he was coming into Spurs. Obviously, when in youth level, he was a fantastic finisher, but I think the big question mark about Kane was physically. Was he ever going to be a Premier League striker physically? And then what you started seeing was he will always, when he broke into the team, physically he was beating players. He was beating players for pace even. He was out-muscling players. And then obviously he had that finishing to back it up. And could Lancashire physically get to a similar pace? If he does, there could be a good Premier League striker there. I wonder if De Zerbi might take a look at him in pre-season and think, maybe I'll keep him around. I'm excited to see. I think he will be here pre-season.
You got to remember as well, Will Lancashire now, this season at Oxford, is better than any of Kane's loan spells in the Championship. Yeah. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that. And we've mentioned it, or I've mentioned it a few times, that when you watched Will Lancashire last year in the under-21s, or 2 years ago when they won the division and they won the cup, and even a few traits at Oxford this year, you can definitely see the lessons that he's learned from Harry Kane, and he's used Harry Kane as a role model to model his game on. So I think that is fantastic. And Oxford put out this message on the back of him leaving the club, which I thought was a really nice message, saying, we can confirm that Will Lancashire has returned to his parent club, Tottenham Hotspur, will make 46 appearances in all competitions, scoring 12 goals, earning the 25-26 Golden Boot. A fantastic addition to the squad from the moment he arrived. Will embraced everything it means to represent Oxford. Wishing you all the very best in the future. You will always be a yellow.
Lovely message.
So apparently as well on the last day, obviously they got relegated, but he was the last one on the pitch, just clapping all the fans. So he obviously had a great time there. Yeah,
and if you look at the comments as well, it's just loads of Oxford fans being so grateful and thankful for him. It was a brilliant loan spell for him, and clearly got a good relationship with the fans. So just goes to show as well what kind of character he is, which is obviously brilliant. I just do wonder what we're going to do with him. I really want to see him get an opportunity. I just get a feeling about Lancashire that he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I've always been impressed with him.
Yeah.
So I would love to give him a go, but you know, we are a massive club. Is giving Lancashire one of our striker roles the answer? Then again, when Kane broke through, he was actually third choice at the time to Soldado and Adebayor, and he was just so good we couldn't ignore him. The difference is at that point we had Europa League, and he was just banging the goals in Europa, wasn't he? And we just couldn't ignore him after a certain point. Lancashire won't have that luxury.
He would have had a lot of minutes this season if he would have stayed, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but it's true, but we don't have that luxury of if he's going to have two strikers ahead of him of probably giving him those minutes. Could he be a backup to someone? That's the question mark. Is it too big of a risk? I think give him pre-season and see, but we might have a striker in place for pre-season, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think another thing as well, that reminiscent of Harry Kane, Arsenal let him go from the academy, and who snapped him up? Tottenham, and that's exactly what happened with Harry Kane as well. So
Kane regen.
Maybe history is repeating itself here.
Kane regen.
Let's get on and talk about Jamie Donnelly, because he also was at Oxford second half of the season. Obviously, he wasn't there first half, and he had a bit of a poor loan spell. Where was he first half of the season, Jamie?
Donnelly, he was... God, I've slipped my mind.
Yeah, it's completely slipped my mind. But anyway, he was poor. He didn't get in the team. And second half of the season, he's gone to Oxford, got an injury straight away, and then he was quite irregular in that Oxford team, got one goal. Stoke, that was it. And he has returned to Tottenham now. But from what the article said from George Sessions is that Oxford can still activate the buy option, can still trigger it, but it is $4.5 million.
They're not doing that.
And for a League One club, I see that finally highly fanciful.
They're not doing that. I don't even think that. Apparently, they wouldn't have even done it even if they stayed up. Like, I think they wouldn't have spent the money on signing Donnelly. So, I don't think that's the worry. Is this his last summer at Tottenham? Do we think? Is he going to be sold?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's 21 years of age now. I don't...
Same age as Lancashire, to be fair.
It is, but Lancashire didn't have... I mean, he didn't have the same impact as Lancashire, albeit not there at the same time, and he was held back by injuries as well. Look, cast your mind back to this time last year. We're all waxing lyrical about him, about the loan spell from Leyton Orient, so I think there is a player there, and Donnelly and Lancashire were the ones that struck that relationship in the under-21s, but... I still think he needs to develop a bit more. Maybe one more loan spell and see where we go.
Yeah, I do. I wonder if we get a bid of like 6 million, do we just sell to someone?
I think there's such a talent there with Jamie, though. I really do. I really rate him highly. So I wouldn't want to sell him this summer, but I would understand it.
I just wonder. I think he's got fantastic left foot. We've seen it, but I wonder if when it comes to like the other stuff, whether is he a bit of a luxury player? I don't really know. I haven't seen enough of him, but from what I have seen of him, I've been very impressed with his ability to put a ball on a play or a free kick he scored or a goal from the halfway line. But it's about when he's part of a team, does he do all the hard graft and stuff? I don't know, but maybe that's something. Does he have the physicality to really do it? Maybe that's something holding him back. I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't know. I think he's known to work very hard for the team and do those hard yards. And
I'm not saying not work hard, but like, you know, press intensely, that kind of thing. Track your runner back all the way back to all the way back to the penalty box and stuff like that. Is that in his game? I mean, maybe Oxford fans. Maybe we should get an Oxford fan on, and he can tell us better. But maybe that's something, because with his kind of quality, with that left foot, we've seen what that left foot can do. So must be something.
From the bloody halfway line against Man City.
There must be something holding him back.
Well, I think a lot of this season he had a lot of injuries this season.
Yeah, but why wasn't he getting picked for Stoke? Why? I know he had injuries.
And also he had a very good player ahead of him in Beijing Ho.
I know, but if you're that good, you would have been picked, I would have thought. I don't know. I just feel like there's something holding. Maybe is he too slow? You know, he seems like a bit of a slow player. There's something. Because when you see what he can do, and you've seen it as well for the Tottenham under-21s, he's got a wonderful left foot. He's probably got one of the best left foots, you know, it seemed like in the Championship at that point. But for some reason, there's something else which is leading him not to be picked.
Yeah. Look, we've seen players not have successful loan spells and go on to be brilliant players. Hopefully that's just another example of it.
Yeah, it's true. But when Harry Kane had those loan spells, and like I don't think it's a case of, first of all, he was playing, but I don't think it was a case of he was that good, he just wasn't showing it. He became that good, you know what I mean? But I think Donnelly, with that left foot, it's already brilliant. So why isn't...
Yeah, look, he's probably got to add other aspects to the game. I haven't watched him week in, week out at Oxford, so I can't tell you the exact thing, but you can't really just take the under-21 period and translate that straight away into men's football. It's not as simple as that, and players develop at different times in their career, don't they? So it's hard to make that judgment call.
There's just an Oxford fan in the comments. He's just talking about Lancashire, but his name's Tom Quarterman. He says, I'm an Oxford fan as well as Spurs. Really enjoyed watching Lancashire on several occasions this season, and his professionalism and motivation always impressed me. I'll just want to read out because I say, Tom, could you also let us know about Donnelly? What's going on with Donnelly? If you put us in the comments, I'll read it out.
So Oxford also tweeted about Jamie Donnelly, not exactly the same message that they did for Lancashire, but they said everyone at the club would like to thank Jamie Donnelly, who returns to Tottenham after end of the loan spell. Jamie scored at the Kassam during a 1-0 victory over Blackburn Rovers. Good luck for the future, Jamie. Yeah, so nice. That was that for Jamie Donnelly. But yeah, do let us know in the comments about Jamie and why maybe he hasn't progressed at the same level as he did last year. Let's talk about Alfie Devine now. Some interesting update on him. First of all, he won Preston's Young Player of the Year, scoring 8 goals and picking up 6 assists in the meantime as well. And there's a report in Scotland that has said that Alfie has now been linked to Celtic following his impressive loan spell at Preston. The 21-year-old is reported to be on the shortlist of targets at Parkhead this summer, with Martin O'Neill believed to have personally scouted the player during Preston's 1-1 draw with QPR last month.
Wow. I wouldn't mind a loan deal to Celtic for Alfie Devine. But didn't we put a buy option in there for Preston as well?
So there was a buy option. The buy option was seemed unattainable for Preston, but apparently Preston are going through a takeover right now. So maybe after the takeover, they might be able to do it, but I don't know. That's just speculation.
I was just watching a 5-minute compilation clip of Devine this season.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And man, he looks brilliant. Some of the goals he's scoring outside the box left. I mean, I know during the season we've commented on them, but when you put it all as a collection, the guy has unbelievable technique. Some of his passes are fantastic, in behind or around the side, which right on a plate for his teammates. And he's clearly got a lot of talent. He's one that obviously people have been excited about him for a very long time, ever since he was young. And I actually think like a lot of loan spells he's done all right. Like this obviously been the best of the bunch. And obviously whenever
great at Westerlo last season.
Yeah, so he's like, it's not like all his loan spells have been bad. Like I think there was another one before when he was in League One. He did all right. I can't remember where it was, but I remember he was scoring goals in the Carabao Cup and stuff, and he was doing quite well there. Whenever he's played in pre-season, he's done quite well, I think, for Tottenham.
I think that first pre-season under Ange, I think it was it the first or second? I think it was the first. He was like a standout. I think maybe it was the second. I can't remember, but he was like a standout performer for us in that pre-season. Yeah, I think it was the second.
Yeah, but he was great. He was great. So, like his trajectory's also been under the radar about how Port Vale, that was it in the chat. He did quite well at Port Vale.
He went to Port Vale, then Plymouth, then Westerlo.
Yeah, Plymouth, I think, at times they were liking him as well. So I think every loan spell he's done quite well. This one's obviously been the best. He's actually adding more goal contributions to the game, and some of his goals have been brilliant, like really top-class gols.
He's the youngest ever scorer for Spurs, isn't he, in a competitive game?
He is, against Marine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of me wants to be like, maybe he deserves a shot. But when we just spoke about how many midfielders we got, is he ever going to get a shot unless... I can't see him, Gray and Bergvall all being in the squad together. It's just not possible. Like, something would have to give. Maybe you said Bergvall on loan and you give it to Devine, but is that what you want to do? I don't know. I think Devine, is going to be a Premier League player. I would love to maybe send him out on loan one more time and have him smash out for Celtic and then see where we're at. But the fact that we put a buy option in for Preston kind of implies we would be willing to listen to an offer if it did come in, which would be a shame. I think there's a real talent there. We've seen him. He seems to be improving year on year. Is my point.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is. And at 21 now, these players that we all had high hopes for, we were saying we signed them at 15 or whatever, they're getting to the age now where you really need to make that decision because they need to kind of make a career for themselves, don't they? We can't just keep loaning them out and that's it. You know, you need to sell them or you need to make use out of them. One of the two. Let's move on. This is an interesting player, Yusuf Akramich at Bristol Rovers this season. Steve Evans, the Bristol manager, has had some great words about him. He says, don't discount that he'll come back to Bristol next season. We'll work hard to try and make that happen, but ultimately we have to respect Tottenham Hotspur and we have to respect Yusuf, and he has to do what's right for him, but he knows my thoughts. His mum and his dad and his brother were here today talking about the last game of the season, and they've said that I've treated him like my son, and that's how you should treat young players. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Excuse me. Because similarities in the Bristol ranks have likened Akramich's time at Rovers to when Elliot Anderson was on loan there, who was also impressive during his loan spell from Newcastle in the second half of the 21-22 season, which saw Rovers promoted to League One on the final day. Anderson scored 7 and registered 6 assists in the second half of the season. The manager was asked whether Akramich is inspired by Elliot Anderson's journey from Rovers to the Premier League, and he said, I think he's inspired by it because he's been made aware of it several times from people that are at the football club, saying the last boy that we had that was on that level was Anderson. And he's got, well, Akramich didn't do that well, but he did very well this season, 6 goals and 1 assist. So,
first loan spell.
It's brilliant as a first loan spell. So, I mean, the Bristol Rovers liking him to Elliot Anderson.
Yeah, and if you see his goals as well, clearly such a talent, good left foot, good finisher, a few from outside the box, one dinked finish, some really confident finishes. So I'm delighted for him. He clearly seems I think there was, again, another player, a bit of excitement about him before this loan spell. Another one who's kind of gone under the radar as to how well he's actually done in this loan spell. So I don't think he's quite ready for the first team, but I think a championship loan definitely in the offing for next season.
That'd be great. That'd be great if he can get that, because straight away he went in there and just hit the ground running, didn't he? So yeah, fantastic for him, and some big words said about him by the manager, and they've clearly got a lot of hope for him, and they want him back for next season.
What I like about a lot of his finishes is very quick, like just gives himself half a yard, has a shot, and bam, into the corner. It hasn't been like he's just been given loads of time like to score. Like a lot of them, he's just taken one touch and smashed it into the far corner and been very impressive. So he's kind of been playing right wing / number 10 / false 9 a few times, mainly on the right. Been very impressive.
Last but not least, I want to talk about a player. Do you remember James Wilson?
Of course.
Big signing that we made in the deadline day against, Arsenal? Hijacking on Arsenal on the last day of the January window. James Wilson. He made 10 appearances for the under-21, scoring 4 goals and grabbing 1 assist. However, the Edinburgh Echo have said that Tottenham have chosen not to take up the buy option on James Wilson, who is now set to return to Hearts after his loan spell ends with Tottenham, who they've got a few under-21s games left with the playoffs. So clearly hasn't done too well.
Mate, I think Arsenal was a bit of fugazi. I think Arsenal tricked us. They pretended to go for him to get us in it. Or maybe they even faked it. They faked Arsenal in for him just to make us sign him. We loaned an under-21 player who we're not impressed with. I've never heard of, by the way, loaning an under-21 player. It's the first of its kind.
Yeah, I know.
And it's never, it didn't even work out. So there you go.
But numbers actually weren't too bad. I mean, 5 goal contributions in 10 games.
Not horrendous.
It's not too bad, is it? And we've decided, you know what, we've seen enough.
No Will Lancashire.
No Will Lancashire. But that's it. That is all we have for you guys today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you all tomorrow. Preview day, Tottenham against Leeds. Got a Leeds fan coming in as well, which will get into the nitty-gritty of everything. But we'll see you all soon, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.